He kōna e purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
On leaves and stems around you, there are all kinds of conversations playing out. Threats, helpful advice, warnings, sweet whispers of romance. It's happening in a language we can't speak or sense. A language of vibrations. Kia ora, nau mai haramai ki te ao hurahanga. Hello and welcome to Our Changing World. Ko Claire Kincannon tēnei. Today we're talking about insect vibes, how researchers are trying to understand and translate them, and how we might use this knowledge to our advantage to combat horticultural pests.
Insects can produce these vibrations in all sorts of different ways.
This is Dr. Mark MacDougall, who works at the Bioeconomy Science Institute in Lincoln.
Some of them will simply shake their bodies, like if you've ever seen a crane fly caught in a web, the way it just sort of shakes around. That's called tremulation. That's very common. Weta do that. Some insects will scrape little plates on the inside of their body, kind of like a grasshopper might, but they can also be used to send vibrations through a plant stem as well. Insects like termites will bang their heads on the ground to send vibrations throughout a nest. Yeah, the diversity of ways that insects can produce vibrations is just massive.
The study of this world of making and using vibrations to communicate is called bioeconomy.
Insects talking to one another by sending vibrations through the plant stems and the ground that they live on.
And if you're going, wait, what? I've never heard of that before. Then same for me before this story, and also before his PhD, same for Mark. He did his master's on bioacoustics, so studying sound. In fact, he researched the dawn chorus. And then he saw a PhD project on bioeconomy being advertised.
I just had no idea that vibrations were just a part of the way that animals communicated. I had no idea that it was so widespread throughout the world, and it was basically this entire world of communication that we humans are really not privy to. You know, we sort of exist outside of what they call the vibroscape. Because you'll have a whole bunch of insects on a plant and they'll look like they're just sitting there, but you listen in and there's so much going on beneath the surface.
For his PhD, Mark studied the passion vine hopper, a pest insect. You might know them as fluffy bums, an adorable nickname for something that can be an absolute nightmare for kiwi fruit growers.
So the passion vine hoppers that we work with, they produce a sound by sort of undulating their body a little bit. So they sort of move the abdomen up and down. They will have a mechanism inside similar to a cicada, which is sort of a series of buckling plates that produces vibrations and sends them through the plant.
This is what that vibration sounds like when converted to something we can hear. This one is a male passion vine hopper.
So I've looked extensively into the behaviour that these insects perform in concert with these calls. So the male call, he makes that call to sort of try and initiate what we call a duet with the female. Just like a duet with humans, it's sort of a back and forth. But it happens over the scale of a few seconds. The female is putting her call in between the tiny gaps in his calls. And that is what leads to their courtship and their mating.
And how close together are they? Like, are they sharing the same leaf at this stage?
So they actually have different calls depending on whether they're on the same leaf or not. So if they're on different leaves, the male will make really faint calls as he's trying to find his way towards the female, almost as though she's giving him directions. And he'll make his way, and if he makes a wrong turn, he'll turn around and head back towards where her call is coming from. And then when they reach the same leaf, the energy of the duet shifts. So at the beginning, it's mostly the female calling, but once he gets to her leaf, it shifts the other way around, and he starts putting in all the effort. And that leads to the final stages of mating. So the male's effort in that last stage is really important to whether it's successful or not.
This is like a whole other world
going
on between some insects on a leaf.
Exactly.
All right, and so this is a call. Is this a mixture of both male and female calls?
No.
Or this is just a male?
This is a male call, but it's almost mimicking the duet between a male and a female. And from what I could tell from my studies, I think that this call is likely involved in rivalry between males.
Passion vine hoppers are just one of the pest insects Mark is studying. He's also currently trying to learn the greenhouse whitefly vibrational language. And to do this type of research, you need a special setting.
This is like a studio sound. It's
It is
great.
basically, yeah. We've got all the soundproofing up, windows barred up because even a fire truck going by could potentially set off an insect calling or mask one of our recordings. The table itself actually goes into the foundations through the floor, so it's isolated from the floor here that we walk on.
So you can't even send a vibration through the table
No.
by walking across the room.
No, not unless you did
everything.
it. Not unless you were sort of stomping around, but yeah, no, we've done everything we can to make sure that our recordings are as clean as possible.
So what are you doing at the moment?
So at the moment, I've got this laser vibrometer focused on a leaf that's got some greenhouse whiteflies on it. So the laser vibrometer works by pointing a laser beam at a reflective surface and then measuring the Doppler shift in the laser that gets reflected back.
The Doppler shift is a change in the frequency of a wave in relation to its observer. You'll have noticed this as the change in sound of a train horn or an ambulance siren as it moves past you.
A similar thing is happening in the leaf when vibrations are moving through it. There are Doppler shifts in that reflected laser beam, and the laser vibrometer is able to turn that into information about the velocity and the displacement of the waves, which we turn into sound data, and then we can analyze those vibrations just as though they were sound.
So that laser vibrometer is pointed at a tomato plant.
Yes, a tomato plant, and it has a small piece of metallic tape attached to a leaf that has some white flies on the underside.
How it works is that when the whitefly want to communicate, they will cause the leaf and the metallic tape on the leaf to vibrate, which the super-sensitive laser vibrometer then detects.
I'm hoping to identify different kinds of vibrations that these insects might make. I'm looking at the vibrations through a spectrogram, which is turning the vibrations into a visual that I can look at and see certain patterns.
And is it likely that these whiteflies will produce a number of different kinds of vibrations?
Yes. So they'll have different vibrations for different kinds of things. There might be vibrations they make when they're trying to attract a mate. There might be vibrations they make when they're trying to get a rival to leave the leaf that they're on. Or there might just be vibrations that they make to contact other flies that might be on different parts of the plant and just be like, hey, come over here.
Greenhouse whitefly is the most common whitefly species in New Zealand and can be found all year round in greenhouse crops. Adults are about 1.5 millimetres long. They kind of look like teeny tiny white moths. They have a preference for plants in the nightshade family, so things like tomatoes, eggplants and capsicums, as well as cucurbits like cucumbers and squash. At different life stages, they feed on the plant sap, weakening the plant and promoting the growth of sooty molds. Their vibrational language has been well studied overseas. Mark has been eavesdropping on them here to see if he can identify any new calls and to check whether they're behaving the same in the New Zealand context.
There were some small differences between whitefly calling in Europe versus Japan, for example. We might see some of those differences here. And we're also interested in just how far these calls might travel and the threshold of perception for these calls, so how much they could drop off before the insect doesn't realize that there's a call coming in.
And presumably that work is important to know for using this information against the insects.
Exactly. If you have a vibration that you could play that potentially stops them from calling or makes them move away, we really need to know how loud that has to be for it to work.
And that's what the whole point of the research is. Because, well, it's kind of cool to learn a new insect vibrational language. What the team are really focused on is figuring out how we can apply this knowledge to tell pest insects to go away. So they're also running a trial in a tomato-growing glasshouse to work out all the practicalities. Dr. Lloyd Stringer, entomologist and project leader at the Bioeconomy Science Institute, explains.
We're fortunate we're working with Tomatoes New Zealand and Veggies New Zealand Incorporated, so we're co-investing in this to see how this technology might work in a glasshouse situation It's really cool, them coming on board so early on in the process, because it helps us. We could develop something here in the lab, for example, and go, oh, we've got a great idea, this will work. Go to the glasshouse house and go, oh heck, it's not going to work. We haven't got power plugs every 5 metres or something like that. So working now, that helps us make sure that we're developing something that's going to be useful and applicable without too many tweaks, when it finally gets to that point where we can put this out. You can imagine trying to generate a vibration costs a lot of electricity or power. And so while this sort of technology has been looked at back in the 70s in places like the States, the glass houses, they weren't really equipped with power to those glass houses, and then the technology wasn't there to sort of really cut back on the power usage. So we're fortunate we've got people in the lab who love to try and improve tools that are out there, and looking at, is there ways we can use computer code to try and reduce the power use, make it a lot more efficient.
So finding the right go-away vibrational signal is kind of only the first step. You then have all the questions around how you're going to send the vibration through the plants and make sure it will propagate far enough. How you will power it. How often do you need to play it? Can you make it cost effective? And will it drive everyone working in the greenhouse crazy?
In a glasshouse, the last thing we want is a whole lot of buzzing, so we won't hear it, but of course as it goes through the structure, that vibration is going to transmit and potentially come out as a sound that we could hear. So if you're in there picking or working, you don't want bzz, 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 just driving you mad while you're trying to pick whatever you need to pick.
When we show up at Pete Mundy's tomato growing operation in the Heathcote Valley in early December, it's all go. Pickers have already cleared a good portion of the glasshouse, and in the packing house, the cherry-sized tomatoes are being sorted, cleaned, weighed, and packaged into crates. Pete hydroponically grows 4 different varieties of small tomatoes in a hectare-sized glasshouse. And yes, there is whitefly on the plants.
That's the adult stage after they've hatched out.
Right, yeah. So you've turned over one of the tomato leaves and there's quite a few on it. And so it's not the adult stage so much that you're worried about, it's that larval stage.
The larval stage is what damages the plants, but of course what we're trying to do is stop the adults being able to lay eggs to produce more larvae. So yeah, they can be very high pressure at times. Literally thousands per leaf.
Can you see their eggs, or are their eggs too small?
The eggs are very small. The eggs are tiny little black things. Eggs tend to be up higher. Then they're hatching, as you come down the plant leaf-wise.
Oh, that's interesting. Then you kind of have a life cycle.
Yeah,
as you move down the
you've
plant.
got a whole life of whitefly on the plant, from an egg at the top to a hatching adult at the lower leaves.
To figure out whether this trial is successful, someone then has to pluck the leaves from the top of the tomato plants and count these teeny tiny eggs to track whitefly numbers. That job has fallen to entomologist Dr. Rachael Horner, also of the Bioeconomy Science Institute.
Oh, there's some eggs. So, I don't know, it's kind of tricky. It might be easier if I just get a leaf that's got heaps on them so that it's really obvious for you.
Wow, now that we're below the plants and looking upwards, I can see that they're absolutely full of it.
Yeah, so if you talk to the workers that work in the glasshouse every day, they say, oh, there's massive clouds today. They're just everywhere, because as soon as you touch the plant, they have that fear reaction where they just all fly up all around you. So, yeah, there's a lot of whitefly. Yeah, this is a real good leaf. So you can actually just about see them with your naked eye. It's just all these little black dots that you can see. But if you look through the hand lens...
Wow, you are so tuned into that, because that is so difficult to see.
That's my job. Yeah, we joke that I've been given the job of counting because I'm the youngest scientist.
The trial, which started in October 2025, uses a single vibrational signal already identified by a group in Japan as one that dissuades the whitefly from laying eggs.
We've broken down the glasshouse into different areas of control and treatment. So some areas of the glasshouse have mini shakers, which are sending out the signal that we want down the trusses where the tomatoes are growing up. And then some areas have no treatment, so they don't have any mini shakers. And then what we do is at 3 points along the treated area, we would take a sample of leaves and then look at the leaves and see how many whitefly eggs are on those leaves.
And what kind of range of numbers are we talking?
Oh, it ranges wildly. So some leaves have no eggs, and then some you might get over 300 eggs on just one small leaf. And that varies, again, wildly in the glasshouse, like spatially and temporally, where the whitefly are, and it changes. And obviously then we have our controls and treatments in amongst that sort of natural variation over time and space. So, yeah, teasing out the effects and things and doing the right sort of statistics to understand what's happening.
Right, and so you're going to finish up in 2 weeks and then it's data analysis time?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Going to do some stats. So, yeah, what we did is we did some sampling before we turned all the mini shakers on. So we had a baseline of what the populations were in the different blocks, and then we'll run some analysis to compare the control and treatment.
Yeah, it strikes me as very difficult stats, as there's going to be a lot of natural variation there that you have to kind of pick through, right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is the first trial that we've ever done in tomatoes, so there's been lots of, things to tease out and problems to solve and things. So it's really just a first look at how we can use this kit in the field. It's our first time venturing out beyond the lab with whiteflies, so yeah.
Key to the trial, and any future pest control application, is the hardware and the practicalities of producing and transmitting a consistent vibration. Rachael brings me over to where one of the devices is attached high above our heads.
So what we're looking at is we've got one of the mini shakers, and it's attached to the two parallel trusses that run down the glasshouse, and the metal bracket basically will vibrate the wire via where the mini shaker, so the mini shaker is sending out the vibration into that metal plate, and then that's vibrating the wires.
Right, so I can see two cables that feed into what looks like a rectangle wrapped up in a plastic bag, presumably to save it from the moisture inside here?
Yeah, so we've got the plastic bag over the top of the mini shaker, so they're quite expensive pieces of kit and they're very sort of experimental. It's not for the specific purpose. I think it's something that they use to test vibration in large machinery. So it's been repurposed. So yeah, each one of those I think is $800. So obviously glasshouses are working environments. You've got spraying, you've got rain coming in through the open windows and things like that. So yeah, we're just trying to protect the kit from that.
They're programmed to run a sequence every 15 minutes, sending a vibration down the wires that the plants are attached to. It makes a bit of a buzzing noise that moves down the glasshouse as the shakers sequentially go off. Importantly, the team also tested how far the vibrations travel.
We came out here with the laser vibrometer, which you would have seen back in the lab, and so we basically pointed the laser at the leaves at different points, and we've taken recordings of how far down the glasshouse the signal is transferring, and that's also why we're sampling at different points to see, I guess, is there a difference in deterrence of egg laying at different points where the mini shakers are, or further down you go, that sort of thing.
Some of this research isn't new, so why hasn't this already been adopted for pest control?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I don't want to say it's all on cost, because it's not, but cost does play a role.
This is Dr. Bethan Shaw. She's another entomologist at the Bioeconomy Science Institute, based in Hawke's Bay.
It has to be an approach that is either the same cost or less than an approach that is currently being used by growers. Otherwise, it's unlikely to be adopted as widely. A second reason is we've probably not got the full picture of the impact that it could have long term on the plants and the insect communities in crops. We need to be confident that we're not going to be disrupting any of the systems that we've already got in place by adding this new method into integrated pest management.
Integrated pest management is the term for the system that many growers in New Zealand use to try keep pest numbers low, including tomato grower Pete Mundy. It involves combining a range of control options,
which include things like physical control, so actually going in and removing the pest from the crop, cultural control by planting resistant varieties, and biological warfare. You're pulling in the good bugs to eat the bugs that we're trying to minimise in those environments. And it's you layer them on top of each other to reduce damage. Chemical does come into that, but that's the last line of defence. Growers will always go for a softer, non-chemical option before getting to that stage.
Pete tells me he does reach for the chemicals when he needs to, especially early in the season before the tomatoes are ripe.
If the plants are young and we're a long way from picking, there's insecticides that are more effective we can use, but once the season is underway and we're picking, we have to be very careful of what insecticides we use because of withholding periods and time from spraying to picking, so we have to be very cautious of what we can do. But early in the year we can use chemicals that are more effective and give us better control.
And because of those withholding periods, that's why the integrated pest management is kind of attractive.
Very attractive, because and with a less chemical application is always nice.
He also uses 2 predatory insects inside his glasshouse to combat the whitefly, a small parasitic wasp and lacewing. He also has many bee boxes to pollinate the tomato flowers. And this is how we should think of these growing environments, says Bethan, as complex mini ecosystems. The idea then is that the vibrational pest control will become part of the grower's toolbox, used alongside other approaches to either dissuade pest insects or attract beneficial insects. But, as Dr. Bethan Shaw says, there needs to be research first to make sure it doesn't disrupt the existing ecosystem. For example, one of the questions Dr. Lloyd Stringer was trying to answer in the lab was whether using vibrations would change the hunting behaviour of spiders, who are tuned into movements along the strings of their webs. In terms of the cost side of things, well, the trial is using 10 mini shakers, so the kit alone comes to a total of $8,000. That would need to come down. The team are now working with an Ōtautahi-based company called Redfern Solutions to develop their own bespoke, more economical device. Here's Bethan again.
We will be needing multiple units for a hectare, and at the moment the ones that we're buying off the shelf are just not cost effective to do that. We also want a device that we can program ourselves with the different synthetic calls, and they need to be able to fit into a growing environment, so we need to be aware of how we can power them, how well they're going to be water resistant in a humid growing environment, and also not be getting in the way of the glasshouse staff and the pickers. So we are trying to develop a device that's fit for purpose for us. And some of the work that's going on at the moment is how small and simple can we get those devices while still having the function that we need.
Bethan's role is focused on creating those good ecosystems for crop growing. As part of this work, she's in constant conversations with growers around New Zealand, who she says are well aware of the promise of biotrimmology.
The growers are really onto it. They will hear about a concept or an idea and get really excited about the prospect of having a new control approach. And a lot of growers like their tech and they like new and novel ideas, so they get really excited and they want to use it. It's a bit unfortunate that we're not at the stage yet where it can be rolled out on a large scale, but it's great that we've got the support of enthusiastic growers that are willing to trial it.
Having crunched the numbers in January, the team found that while there was a trend for lower egg laying in the vibration plots, they did not see a significant difference between the treatment and control areas. In the next glasshouse trial, they plan to increase how often the vibration is played, while they'll also continue to study the impact of other vibration types on whitefly in the lab. Back in the Heathcote Valley, I asked Pete why he decided to let a bunch of scientists in to rattle his glasshouse.
I guess our whole growing career we've been prepared to trial varieties and different things, and it's no harm for us to provide an opportunity for the testing of different products and things. So no, always happy to let guys use the house if they can use it for something, and kind of interest to us. So
And practically, what does it mean for you and the team?
funny noises. There's some funny noises, but not enough to offend anyone. But at the moment, doesn't really have any impact on us. We just let the scientists do their little jobs on the side, and we work around them and let them do all the counting and keeping on top of it. We think it just gives them an opportunity that maybe in 10, 20, 30 years' time, it may be technology that actually is valuable for us, but it always has to start from somewhere.
Thanks to Dr. Mark MacDougall, Dr. Lloyd Stringer, Dr. Rachael Horner, and Dr. Bethan Shaw of the Bioeconomy Science Institute. And to tomato grower Pete Mundy. For more about Pete's tomato growing operation, keep an ear out for a short piece I made for Country Life, which should be airing soon. This episode was produced by me, Claire Kincannon, and sound engineering was by William Saunders. Script editing was by Miranda Fisher, and production help is from Liz Garton. Tēnā koe I whakarongo mai. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Claire Kincannon. Have a great week. Kia pai, the wiki.